What is a woman? Relation amongst 10,000 fractal paradigms in a post-constructivist matrix. Yeah. What is a woman? Brother man, in the Nubian cosmos, a woman transcends amongst multifaceted kaleidoscopes amongst 10,000 ancestral vibrations. Yeah. What is a woman? Man, we all know what a woman is. A woman is a... What is a woman? A woman is an adult female with almost always 2 X chromosomes. Brother man,
You sir,
and youngin,
you
you a
sell
sellout.
out.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Conservative Take. This is my 11th episode, and this episode we're going to be dealing with the elections, and we're going to talk a lot about New Hampshire and new polling data that's showing up in deep blue areas, and how Republicans are making up ground, and how it looks like the Democrats are in some serious trouble across the country, looking at the 2028 midterms. We're talking about Democrats again losing ground in battleground states and on core issues, and particularly in California. And we're going to look at, believe it or not, California, and how California is turning red, if you cannot believe that. A Columbia University poll came out recently showing that 48% of Californians would consider voting Republican for governor in 2026. That is not a typo. Deep blue California is beginning to crack. And lastly, we're going to talk about an interesting scenario, which we didn't actually talk about at all, but I saw this particular going forward to the next presidential election, which would be 2028, essentially, would be AOC, as how she seems to be, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but AOC seems to be the front runner in terms of favorability right now, at least, for the Democrat Party. And it looks like she will run for president based on what I'm seeing and the optics that she's projecting. If you look at her going out with Bernie Sanders and her talking points and just her distancing from the mainstream establishment Democrats, which right now we're seeing there is a huge section that's splitting in that party. And we mentioned this before, and it looks like the Democrats are going to have to figure out if they're going to go far left with the AOC, the squad, Bernie Sanders, or are they going to somehow try to get some of those moderate voters back that Trump has taken from them. Either way, it's going to be a very difficult task, either way. So what I want to do right now, I want to bring up on the screen right here, I have a projection of what 2024 look like. And here are the swing states and how the election was won by Trump. And since we're not really a election projection channel per se, we do talk about elections and we call out various races. I think it'd be prudent to talk a little bit about this map right now and give you a rundown as to what happened in 2024 so that the midterms makes a little bit more sense. So, but before we do all that, let me first introduce myself again. My name is Kyle, and this is the Conservative Take. And here we're going to do some discussion not only with the political nature of the country and where we're going, but we're also going to be talking about the culture in which we are living in and how the culture war is actually being won by the conservatives. And I think it's mainly because the Democrats have actually lost that middle ground from um, from themselves. The Democrats have lost that and given it over to the Republican Party. And so we want to emphasize that the Trump agenda is an agenda that is dealing with the middle ground, the rational, the blue collar worker, the person who doesn't necessarily go to the elections every single year, whether it be an odd number year or whether it be an even number year, particularly an off year for the presidential race. These are people who might show up every 8 years for a presidential election, maybe. These are called low propensity voters. These are the voters that typically voted Democrat because they felt that the Democrat Party was the party for the average person. But when they were kicked to the curb prior to 2016, they realized that their needs aren't being met. They're being trampled on by illegal aliens, by a woke mindset, which doesn't cater to their value systems. And they're being told that they are a class of people that America should shun. This is white, working class, Judeo Christian people, nuclear families, the whole nine, people who actually read the Bible every now and then. And that was very offensive. And then they ended up going to the Republican Party in 2016 because Donald Trump was able to codify that mindset into a particular candidate. And one other thing that we can say is that weak coffee is for the weak. And at Rumble, weak has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity. Just like 1775 coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out nonsense when it matters. Forget stale, reduced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness. And Vitality Mushroom Blend, well, that's real energy and lasting focus with no synthetic garbage. For K cups, whole bean, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com and hit studio as your code to get 15% off. So use code studio to get 15% off and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Oh, and every dollar spent earns you a entry into a Cybertruck drawing and $30,000 cash. So again, 1775coffee.com, use code studio for 15% off. All right, guys, if you want to leave a comment, please do so. Go up into we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, X, and Rumble. And I will see your comments and I will jump over there and I will respond to them, put them on the screen. If you want a question, let me know. And let's get into this particular broadcast. So here we go here. So let's talk about 2024. So let's start with, we're going to get to New Hampshire. We're going to save that for last. But let's go to Wisconsin. Wisconsin here, Trump won that by 0.86 points. So under a point. It was a 49.6 to 48.7. He also won this in 2016. This is what they so-called the Rust Belt or the so-called Blue Wall, which is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These are votes that were depended on by Democrats for decades. to carry because they had a high percentage of low propensity, white, blue collar, patriotic Americans who have voted Democrat going all the way down to 88 to Dukakis and a little bit before that. It was very dependable. And when you have this number of electoral college votes, 10, 15, that's 25, and Pennsylvania, that's a lot of votes to make up around the country. And if you just get these three states, it makes it very difficult for the other side to win. And they did win these. Obama won all these, I believe, and so did, well, we'll say Biden won them, but we'll leave it at that. But yeah, but that was that. And prior to that, Hillary Clinton was expecting to win that. So these states here, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, even Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, these states here, this area here makes up hundreds of counties, and these counties voted overwhelmingly for Democrats going back to the caucus 30 years plus, but in 2016 defected hugely to Trump, and they never looked back. I think 2020 is an anomaly with COVID and the voting, the way it was done, the mail-in ballots and all that. People were scared. They didn't want to go outside. So they did mail-in voting, and we'll leave it at that. But then you see 2024, you don't have COVID. You have a little bit more electoral integrity, a little bit more oversight, and you have less people wanting to get on the bandwagon with Biden, in this case, Kamala Harris, because it expanded not only with the white working class, but also went into the black male and Latino male in particular working class in the urban areas and also in the rural areas as well. It didn't matter, especially white men who were unchurched. They were overwhelmingly going for Trump, where normally they would have gone for Biden. So you look at these states here. Now, let's come up to New Hampshire. New Hampshire was actually the closest race by number in the entire 2024. Trump Harris won by 2.8. However, the number of vote count was actually, let's see, let's see if you shift here. Here we go. Do you see that on the screen? Make sure you can still see it. Yes, you can. So make sure you can see that. So here we can see the votes themselves. And this will come into play. I'm not seeing the votes here, like it says in the thing, but we'll just keep going with this. And so anyway, so let's take a look at New Hampshire, because what's going on here, Red Eagle Politics has something that's pretty interesting here. Red Eagle Politics has something here that says that New Hampshire was close to North Carolina in 2024, and Sununu is more popular there than Cooper ever was in North Carolina. Yet somehow many Dems will pretend New Hampshire is an auto hold and North Carolina is an auto flip, despite there being a solid chance Cooper won't run. So let's break this down. So New Hampshire was closer than North Carolina. Cooper was the governor of North Carolina. He can no longer run, and this opens a seat running in North Carolina for senator. That's Tom Tillis. People think that the former governor is going to run against Tom Tillis, and so Sununu, who's a moderate Republican, is looking like he's going to run for governor because the incumbent probably won't run again, an open seat, and that could be a flip for Republicans. So he says here, yet many Dems will pretend New Hampshire is an auto hold, meaning that it's a lock. It's not. And North Carolina is an auto flip. It's also not, despite there being a solid chance Cooper won't run. If Cooper doesn't run, Tillis pretty much has it in the bag. And even if Cooper does run, Tom Tillis will be the incumbent. He has now become a MAGA darling now, which before he was not. I think he's only doing it because he sees what's going on. He knows the audience. He knows the room and feels like he needs to jump on board or else he will be run over. So I think Tom Tillis will continue on the MAGA platform, and that should be enough to get him over the top. We'll see. I'm sorry. Let me come back to that screen, show you what I'm talking about here. That's why I had it up on the screen there. I didn't share that, but it was just I read it, so you already had it. But let's go to this particular screen here. This is New Hampshire voting trends in 2020 and 2025. The Democrat votes in New Hampshire are actually shrinking, and that's something that's happening really across the board. That, and we'll see this in California as well. We'll see this in New York. We'll see this pretty much everywhere. And we'll do a show maybe later on this week talking about the actual electoral college numbers that are going to be lost by the Democrats in the next few elections because of the census and what's happening with stuff like this. Then this isn't necessarily population. This is basically voters flipping or leaving the state, which basically leaving the state would be the same thing as actually census because it's part of that state. However, either way, they're messed up. So either they're leaving the state as Democrats and just moving out and going somewhere else, voting somewhere else, or they're flipping their votes and staying in state. Either way, they're pretty much messed up. So in November of 2020, Democrats had 347,000 registered Democrats in New Hampshire. A little bit over, well, yeah, about 5 years later, give or take, 4 and some change, 277,000. So that's almost 80% drop, right? And so a drop of 70,000 voters in little over 5 years, a little over 4 years. Is the party losing its grip on New Hampshire? Republicans rebounding. February 2025, there were 325,000 GOP voters. That's up 50,000 from 2023. We keep going here. Share this tab. We're seeing here that New Hampshire party registration trends from 2020-25. You see here, graphically speaking, you see that red line on top, that's undeclared. But down here, which is the yellow line, the second line coming down, we see that number just plummeting below. Now, it is trending up now a little bit, but so are the Republicans. So if they're both trending upward, well, it's not really helping the Democrats because they're still far behind that gap right there. And also, I mentioned to you about Sununu, who is that Republican moderate, so to speak, candidate running for Senate over the, I'm not sure who Pappas is. That's the person I believe. Let me check who Pappas is. I want to make sure I say that right. I didn't look at that prior to. Let me look at this. Just look at this. I don't see. Let me see. Okay. Congressman Chris Pappas, New Hampshire 1. He's a congressman. So this guy is actually going to, looks like he's potentially going to run for the Senate. So he is basically, it's an open seat, more or less. So if you look at that and look at the actual poll that we have here, now you see that he has almost a 10-point lead on that. So that will be a flip if this holds. And with the voter registration numbers trending the way they are, it's looking right now that it's going to be a flip for the Republicans. And so looking at the Senate map is really interesting. Let me see. I have a list here. Let me pull this up. I will draw this map for you right here on the screen. I have it already lined out. We can actually do it in real time right here. Let me pull up my paper here, and I will go through the Senate map projection for 2026 and see where the Republicans can go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go one more tab here, and then I should go to that. So right here, we're showing that this is why 2026 is going to be harder for Democrats than they may think. In 2018, Democrats had a net positive favorable rating, and it's higher than Trump's right now. It was higher than Trump's, sorry, not then. So in 2018, it was higher than Trump's favorability. Now it's rivaling second term Bush levels, WW, and his approvals just tanked big time, and 20 points below Trump's. So here we see now Trump is right out at about 49%, 50, which is fantastic. It's never really been that high prior to this year. And now Democrats are still in the gutter at 30%. That's unattainable. That 30% is the wacky left. I've always said that 7 out of 10 people are the moderate to conservatives, and the 30% are the wacky left. And that's what the Democrat Party is trying to run on. It's not going to work at all. So that's what we have here. So from here, I'm going to go to, let me see, let's go to 270 to win, because I want to show that particular map. I'm gonna put the Senate. This is not the Senate. Where's it? Come on, close that out. Got these ads coming in here. I may have to go to different. All right, there we go. So let's go to the Senate interactive map. There we go. So let me go to a. Let me see. Is this going to be active? This is not active. So let's go to a clean map for the Senate. All right, here we go. I got my thing right here. Here, let's go through this. This is the 2026 Senate, and we're going to go with New Hampshire. Looks like a GOP lean there. Georgia, GOP lean there. Michigan should be open, but that would be a GOP lean there, or toss up more or less. Tom Tillis in North Carolina, we mentioned him. That's going to be a lean Republican. Collins in Maine, looks like that could actually be a flip for the Democrats. She's a total rhino. It leans D, could be a flip. Let me see. Minnesota, looking right there, could be a toss up. So we'll leave that. We'll leave that as gray. In Arizona, likely R, which as actually that's not the right. This map isn't showing that. Should be, but it's not. Let's go back to the. Let me go back to the regular map. My map here says that Nevada's in play and Arizona is in play, but it's not showing up on here. Must not be up for election this year. So that being said, I actually have a map here I can pull up. Oh, I see. I see. I got it right here. So my notes are wrong. So let me just do this. So it looks like it's going to be. All right. So let me just do this. This will work. All right. All right, so let's just go through this. So these are going to be your safe seats here. This is going to be blue. Oregon, uh, Montana. Looks like it's going to be. We'll just keep it solid colors. We're not going to go leans or anything. These are going to be your red states here. Colorado's going to be blue. Kansas City, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico is going to be blue, and Minnesota blue. Iowa, red. Typical Illinois. blue. Ohio, blue and red. West Virginia's in play. Kentucky's in play. Tennessee's in play. Arkansas's in play. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. So what was happening was these are what's going to happen in terms of the numbers. So right now, you see that the Republicans right now are going to hold the Senate at 52, and you have South Carolina in play, and Virginia will probably be blue, and New Jersey blue, and Delaware blue, and what else do we have? I mentioned Maine already. Massachusetts will be blue for sure. And somehow I got to 55. How did we get to 55? Oh, 53 right here. Okay. So somewhere along the line, someone had one of these flipping, which is a 2, to actually be 55 in terms of Senate races. I'm not sure what actually could flip. Maybe New Jersey could do it. That would give us 54. And I think looking at this map on my side here, we talked about New Hampshire already. Maybe New Mexico, potentially, in terms of that way. Oh, that's what the number. Yeah, so yeah, that would be it. And then of course Georgia would have to go over as well. So I think we kind of cap out at 55. But regardless of what's happening with the Democrats and their attempts to get the Senate, it's not going to happen. And if you look at 2026, it's really their best shot of trying to do anything, because in 2028 there's no clear path, and in 2030 there's no clear path based on the way numbers are bouncing back and forth, and the way the demographics are falling for the Democrats in general. It looks pretty bad for them. It really does. So with these new polls that are coming out with um, the GOP approval surge, with Trump hovers near 50%, while Democrats' favorability sinks below 30%. Sununu in New Hampshire, he's 9 points over Pappas, who's that congressman we talked about. This could be a flip that seals the Senate supermajority. Georgia shift, where we have Kemp over Warnock by 3. I didn't mention that here, but that's why we have Georgia in this map right here going over. Could mirror Rick Scott's surprise in 2018 Senate win. And Warnock, that guy was a total. He was the guy that ran after Herschel Walker. I mean, what a scumbag he is. Um, I mean, what a piece of work he is. And the math, even in a neutral year, the GOP is projected to hold a 53 to 55 Senate seats. And there's a Rust Belt momentum going on as well, with Michigan and Pennsylvania now lean red in voter trends. Dems have zero comeback path. So that's where we stand in terms of the Senate race, at least right now. We'll let you know more as this goes on. It's very interesting because we know for a fact that the Democrats are going to try their best to gain control of Congress so they can impeach Trump and potentially have him convicted in the Senate and get him out of office. That's not going to happen. They will be lucky to even get the House at this point, because uh, that right now is looking pretty bad for them as well. All right, so let's talk about California, and I want to pull something up. I just want to find where the article is. I'm sure if I remember where I put it. Oh, by the way, Miss Crockett Jasmine Crockett is out of control, and she's really causing the Democrat nightmares in optics and couth. She's just not doing them any favors. Trying to find this article in California. It was really, really good. Huh. Interesting. So, okay, I may have to take a detour here on California and get back to that particular topic. I can read it off here on my notes, but I really like to show some graphics here on this. Um, but I still may do that anyway. But I'm going to take a DV. I'm going to take a punt here and go off on a couple of things that I'm seeing right now, and that is with the House with Speaker Johnson and also with Ms. Crockett. Now, I kind of want to just talk about her first because she's the most egregious of all of them. So here we are in the Gateway Pundit. I want to read this article because someone actually told me about this just a minute ago. So the article is entitled Shameless Jasmine Crockett Invents an Outrageous Lie to Justify Her Wicked Remark about Paralyzed Texas Governor Greg Abbott. So here she is. If you know or not, this is the same woman who has just talked about going after Elon Musk. I mean, darn near threatening him, talking about on her birthday, go after Tesla. I'm not sure the quote was it go after Elon? Let me know in the comments below if that was what it was. I think it was go after Elon. But some kind of protest on her birthday, I believe it's this Saturday. So now she's back in the news where she seems to be determined to make herself the most hated politician in America by not only insulting the disabled, but doubling down on said comments. It's just incredible. I can't believe the decorum or lack thereof in the House is just out of control. So, as the Gateway Pundit reported earlier on Tuesday, Crockett mocked Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who was confined to a wheelchair after being partially paralyzed in his 20s when an oak tree fell on his back and smashed his spine while jogging. In fact, I didn't even know that. I didn't know he was paralyzed. I had no clue. During a Sunday night speech at a Los Angeles human rights campaign, an LGBTQ rights organization, Crockett called Abbott quote, Governor Hot Wheels, unquote, as the crowd laughed and applauded. So basically, can you imagine if a Republican said that about any Democrat? I mean, there is that whole deal where they accuse Trump of blaming or mocking a handicapped reporter when he had in the past done the exact same thing numerous times with other people. And so that should have basically given him at the least the benefit of the doubt. Here you have this woman here talking about Governor Hot Wheels. I mean, it's just the most atrocious, disgusting thing to say. And here's the thing. Um, I think what she's trying to do, I think what she's trying to do, and she's just not clever enough to do it. What she is trying to do is trying to make a huge run somewhere, maybe for president. Who knows what she's trying to do? But what she's trying to do is try to do what Trump did in 2015 and 2016 and trying to name call people to try and get her headlines so that she can move up in the polls and whatnot. Well, the problem with this is, and Trump kind of ran into it when he commented on McCain not being a hero. There's a certain line that you can go on. Now, I thought Trump was right about that, frankly. But it was early on, people didn't know what Trump was doing. And even though, personally, I believe there was strong basis, basically going back to his military record, we'll leave it there. He said he liked heroes that weren't captured. It was not, it was derogatory, or it was negative for sure, but it wasn't mean and derogatory. It was just stating what it was. Governor Hot Wheels is a pejorative. It is an ugly, nasty comment, and Trump has never done anything like that, ever. But I think she's trying to get that sort of heat in the media so that she can get earned media and get her name in the papers and to get donors and make her seem a certain way and put her in a position to potentially run for office, which I'm sure that's what she wants to do. She said, "We're in a hot ASS Texas streets, honey," Crockett told the hateful audience. "You all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down here. Come on now." She's just being ghetto. And come to find out, she is not this ghetto urban person. I'm hearing that she is a very affluent person who went through a very well-to-do family, went to well-to-do schools, was brought up in a non-urban hip-hop culture ghetto way, but yet she wants to project herself that way, I guess because that's what Democrats do. They simply just lie. So I'll play the clip here, actually. Let's just play the clip. It's right here.
We in these hot ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot ass mess, honey. So yes.
And looking at her fake eyelashes, which are about a foot long, everything about her is fake. And so this whole what's that word that was going on in the woke community about so-called strong women? There's something word about it that they try to put on Kamala Harris. This ultra feminist, mean-spirited female that we're seeing in pop culture. It's a persona that has absolutely been rejected by mainstream America, by rational Americans, by civil Americans. We just don't want to see that. It's just something. It's not attractive. It's not appealing, and yet Democrats are doubling down on this, and they're creating more of a wedge with them and the regular public. The regular public wants to see solutions. They want to take their candidates seriously, and I'm pretty sure they're not taking the Democrat Party right now seriously at all, based on the polling numbers that we're seeing. So she saw a backlash against on social media. She sought to tamp down the outrage, but instead poured gasoline on the flames by inventing a crazy lie to justify her remark. She said she was criticizing Abbott for transferring illegals to cities run by Democrat mayors and gave no thought to Abbott's disability. That makes zero sense. What does Hot Wheels have to do with transferring illegals to cities? She said, "I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors, deliberately stroking tension and fear among the most vulnerable." So then, of course, she goes on to play the race card. Yeah, I don't buy that at all. I mean, kudos to her spin team, but that's not going to fly at all. And also people are not going to give her the benefit of the doubt because of her past history and how she's also just been nasty and disgusting. And this is going to blow back on her big time. And I'm looking forward to see how badly. So here we have another story here. Let me close this out and reshare the screen using new software. We're figuring this out. All right, so this story here is on the Gateway Pundit as well. And this here is actually dealing with Speaker Johnson issues a warning. And we mentioned this before in previous shows and broadcasts. Is that the U.S. Congress has a check against the judicial branch. I mentioned a couple of days ago how we have a 3-tier government, and I will name them in the way that the framers wanted them in terms of power. That would be the Congress, upper chamber, the Senate, the lower chamber, the House. Those two work together. That's the most powerful because it's closest to the people. Next would be the executive branch, which would be the president and all of his offices and agencies that are under his control and authority. Those groups enforce the law as is created by the Congress. And then lastly, we have the judicial branch, which is led by the Supreme Court. Below that, you have various district court judges, appellate court judges, and so forth, all the way down to local levels. And they work to check the congressional branch to make sure that laws are constitutional and they adhere to original intent, which has long been lost from our judicial systems. It's now a revisionist history type dealing. It's this mindset that the Constitution is some ever changing, breathing, mutating document that morphs and molds itself to the people of that particular era where people are living. That's not the case at all. My wife and I were talking just a minute ago how the framers expected our country to be governed by a constitution, the principles underlying in the Federalist Papers and in the Declaration of Independence, to give us a framework of a republic, a constitutional republic. And we hear that a lot, but what does that mean? What does a constitutional republic mean? What a constitutional republic means is that the majority rules as long as it's inherent to the will of a moral people underlying by a moral God, which is God. So it's not just mob rules. It's not just we can say, okay, today we can have slavery. Today we can have abortion. No, that doesn't at all align in with the will of a moral society. Getting to my point, that in order for this Constitution to work, it has to be run by and governed by a moral society. If you don't do that or have that, then it's impossible to run our Constitution. Now, that being said, now I'm going to segue into something really quickly here. I hadn't planned on doing this, but for the past 6 or 7 years, I've been doing a series called Biblical Citizenship in Modern America. It's a free 8-week course. We go through the Constitution as amended. I'm facilitating it through Wall Builders and the Patriot Academy. And it's about an hour and a half each session. And we have a book. You get a free virtual book. And we go through lots of material. And then people like David Barton tells us about the original intent of the Constitution, the framers, and all that stuff. Stories about how Woodrow Wilson, for example, hid the fact that Africans who came over here as slaves and became Americans, Black Americans, how their achievements and their accomplishments and their culture, their positive culture, by the way, was literally omitted from the university textbooks all across academia and replaced with sample images and derogatorily racist images, and set forth the notion that there is a difference between white and black in terms of ethnicity, in terms of DNA. And it played all into that Darwinism mindset to justify slavery. And that was all in there. We don't learn about that at all, how Woodrow Wilson was just an ultimate racist president, Democrat, by the way, who actually helped bring in the Ku Klux Klan by playing a film in the White House, which was a propaganda piece, which, by the way, I've seen. And it's a good film, but it's a propaganda piece regardless. You can't look at it either way. And so that spurred up recruitment for an organization which had been actually destroyed by a president a few years back, namely Ulysses S. Grant, who actually destroyed the Klan in the South. He was a Republican, by the way, only to have Woodrow Wilson bring it back up again. Now, these are the things that we learn about in this particular class, Biblical Citizenship in Modern America. Now, in the next few weeks, I'm going to announce this. We're going to do a whole series on this, and I'm going to do a commentary summary on this. And this is another good segue to talk about our locals, which is where we're going to put that commentary. And I will do that right now briefly. I'm going to put on the screen here. Can I do that now? Maybe I can't. I'll put this up on the screen. If you go to theconservativetech.locals.com/register, if you go there, sign up, it's free, and you can actually come on board and take part in that. Now, some of it will be behind a paywall, and we'll tell you how to get to that later. But if you want to know how to do that, you can go to Rumble and go to our Rumble page and go to the join section there and join there, follow the prompts there. But the point is, and we'll announce more of this later, but the fact is, understanding our place in this country and having constitutional authority is important, but we have to understand that the reason why we have it the way we have it is because our framers wanted us to have it in a moral standing. I mean, we mentioned this before, having a classical education, which meant to us to learn about life, learn about things that we should love and go love them, learn about things that are good and go do them, instead of having a carnal side of us where we want to gravitate to the worst of us. And that happened essentially, if you go and look at 1979, when the Carter administration put forth the Department of Education, separating that classical style of education into a state-run education where we're turning kids into activists because it's state-run, and because it's state-run, they have to defend that state, and therefore they're becoming activists of the state, and they're not being educated anymore. They are now being indoctrinated. Anyway, that's a lot of setup for this, so let's go into this. But this is the framework in which Johnson's talking about here, is that these activist judges that I was talking about in other episodes, they're going out and they're circumventing their authority and telling the executive leader, the president, that he cannot fulfill his mandate to do the things he needs to do on the border with LGBTQ, with all kinds of issues that were on the docket, to crime, deportation. They're on the docket to do that he campaigned on. Overwhelmingly majority. These issues are anywhere from 40 to 50 to 60 to they're 60 to 70 to 80% issues. Meaning that at the low end, 60% of Americans want to do what Trump wants to do at a minimum. As high as 80%, depending on what you're talking about. Deportation of illegal criminals in this country, it's like 80%. Men in women's sports, it's like 80% not happening. I mean, in terms of it being the opposite. Not, only 20% favor that. And so, what Speaker Johnson here in this article, I'm assuming that he said, I'm going to read it here in a second. He's warning these people that the Congress has the ability to defund and disband the federal courts. They can also impeach them. That's a little tougher to do. But if you just get rid of the courts or don't give them any money, then guess what? That's just as much as impeaching them in my book, as long as it stops them from doing this. And by the way, I will say this. If we're going to drain the swamp, this is what we're going to have to go through. There's going to have to be a battle line set with the judiciary. They've been doing it for decades. This is the last bastion for the Democrats. And I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad that they're finally showing this, because when Trump so-called lost in 2020, we saw the nature of the Democrats. We saw everything come off in terms of the gloves. We saw how everything under the sun that they wanted to do that was from Marxist, communist, leftist, woke agenda was unleashed on the American people with no quarter, no mercy. They didn't care. Put this in your body, put this on your face, walk on these lines, playing the sport. Oh, if you come to a teacher meeting because you're child has been violated in a bathroom in Virginia, oh, guess what? We're going to arrest you. We're going to dox you. We're going to, you know, and other people have been harmed and maimed, put in jail. Their futures, their credit, their reputations, their finances have been destroyed the past 4 years under the Marxist led administration, which I fully believe, and this is to Biden's credit because I feel that he was not knowledgeable about this stuff. Biden doesn't have a history of being this radically crazy and wacko. None of them do. Pelosi doesn't. Schumer doesn't. Hillary doesn't. Bill Clinton surely doesn't. Obama maybe, based on his letters and writings and whatever. Obama maybe, but he hit it enough. But the main line of the Democrat Party just didn't have these wacko, crazy leanings. I've been watching The West Wing for the past 2 months now, off and on, and they're calling the president in this particular show. This is a West Wing is a show that came out in the early 2000s. It's with Martin Sheen. He plays the president. His name is President Bartlett. He is a Democrat president, and so in the episode I saw this week, we're in episode 16 of season 4. He says a line that, or I think his wife says a line, the first lady says, we have the most liberal president that we'll see in a long time. I said, oh, really? This is like in 2002 or 2003 somewhere. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, let's fast forward 20 years, see what you got. And this president, this was the run-of-the-mill Democrat of the day. Moderate on the border, moderate on regulations, moderate on taxes. They understood it. They talked it through policy-wise. It wasn't like anything just crazy like tax the rich or, that kind of thing. I mean, they mentioned that, but they sort of tried to justify it in a way to make it plausible. But they would also throw in the Republican side to say, hey, this is the other side of the argument. So it's a very palatable show to watch. I recommend everybody to watch the show. The West Wing is a fantastic show. I wouldn't watch it back in the day because I was a Republican. I was leading Republican groups, and I didn't want anything to do with Democrats. But gosh darn it, if the Democrats were like this guy, I'd be a happy camper because at least we can talk issues. The issues still suck. They're still wrong, but at least they can sit down with you and articulate in a way. So the point being here is that the reason why the Schumers and the Clintons and the Clinton and even Biden in his bad state, they were taken advantage of because their party was slowly being infiltrated by this Marxist communist regime that was coming in. They were loud, they were boisterous, they were determined, and they fought to win. And what Steve Day says, he's a pundit on The Blaze. If you haven't listened to Steve Days, he's a fantastic pundit. I mean, he has a lot of good things to say. He comes at it from a Christian worldview framework. He's cool. He's a Michigan guy. Not that I follow Michigan, but he's just a cool dude. And he's a filmmaker as well. He did the movie. If someone tell me when he made the movie, I saw it. There's a second part coming out. Anyway, Steve Days talks about how it is a mission of will, not policy. It's will. Do you have the will to implement what you need to do? And the Marxist regime of the Democrat Party, the leftist, Marxist, radical, aligned, woke Democrats had the will. And they pushed their way in, and now they're in, and they can't get them out. They're like squatters. Someone comes in your house, they go to the city hall or town hall, and they find the deed to your house, they forge it, and then they claim the deed, and next thing you know, they're moving in your house and kicking you out. There you go. That's only 20% of that party, but they're strong, they're powerful, they're boisterous, and they have a media that's being funded through companies or organizations like USAID and other NGOs to prop up their said disgusting rhetoric, which no one ever believes, but they gaslight us all the time in the media, which is what the media is for, to prop it all up, to get the agenda in. That's all it is. So let me finally get to this article here. I said enough. So it appears that Speaker Mike Johnson has finally woken up to the threats by radical leftist judges who have taken. Are we sure? Okay, yeah, who have taken over the White House. Let me make sure I'm sharing this right. Just double checking. Make sure I'm still not muted. Okay, good. Start over. It appears that Speaker Mike Johnson has finally woken up to the threats by radical leftist judges who have taken over the White House and U.S. executive branch of government. Johnson on Tuesday warned that Congress has the authority to defund these radical leftists who are running a legal insurrection against the country today. I'm going to read that again. These radical leftists who are running a legal insurrection against the country today. A legal insurrection. That is exactly what's happening on. So we saw something in 2020. They said J6 was an insurrection. I'll leave it right there, or where you think I'm going with that. All right. This is the judicial side of it. And I'm glad this is happening because this battle has to be fought and won. There's no way around it. There's no way we're going to get the swamp out of here unless we deal with these radical judges and clean this thing out of here. That's one piece of it. Then the other battlefront is going to be dealing with the border and dealing with the issue of birthrights citizenship. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But this has to be fought. So I'll keep going on. So since returning to the White House on January 2025, President Donald J. Trump has met with an unprecedented onslaught of legal challenges from far-left activist judges and groups determined to sabotage his second term in power. Ain't that the truth? And let's just keep going. I think there's a video here somewhere. I'm going to play this. I've talked a lot on it. I've gave a lot of preface on this, but I'm going to keep going here. Speaker Johnson on Tuesday warned that Congress has the authority to defund these radical leftists who are running a legal insurrection against the country today. So let's play this clip here. This is from ABC News.
It's getting pretty ugly. House Speaker Mike Johnson issuing an open threat now, saying that Congress has authority to stop providing funding to federal courts. Listen to what the Speaker said just a little while ago.
We do have authority over the federal courts, as you know. We can eliminate an entire district court. We have power funding over the courts and all these other things. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. So stay tuned for that.
All right, Jay, let's get right to it. This is all centered around the Alien Enemies Act and whether deportations fall under the president's Article 2 power.
It's not the Alien Enemies Act. It is the Alien Sedition Act. See, all they do is lie. I keep going.
Powers. So what's the reaction in Congress now to what the Speaker just said today?
What do you mean what the reaction is? The reaction is the fact that we can do it. And I tell you, if the Republicans don't have the will to do this, we need to primary every last one of them because this is their duty. I said this back in 2020 when we were trying to figure out what was going on with the election. And I was saying time and time that the state legislature has the plenary authority to run elections for their state. It does not go through a governor. It does not go through a state attorney general. It does not go through a secretary of state. No other bureaucrat, no other court. It is the sole and plenary authority of the state legislature of these states in which the Republicans in 2020 had all of them. We had the majority in Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Had them all. It should never have gone down like that. But you know what? The way things worked out now, I'm glad it did because 2020 to 2024, we saw the gloves come off and we dealt with that, hopefully once and for all. And now we're going to deal with this, hopefully once and for all.
Today.
Well, there are Republicans up here on the Hill, Kira, who want Johnson, frankly, to go further and support impeaching judges who politically have shown that they, or not politically rather, but legally show that they disagree with the administration. The accusation from the administration is that these judges are acting politically, but these judges and other judges, all the way up to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, have said that these judges are acting within their constitutionally appropriate powers of passing judgment upon what the executive branch does and either delaying it from going into effect with restraining orders and things of the like. But what Republicans here on Capitol Hill have done is that they want to impeach those judges that they believe are impeding the president's will and action here. Johnson has not supported that publicly. This is as far as he's gone, saying that Congress has the power of the purse. They can control what districts are allocated in which way, the funding and how these district courts are drawn and things of that nature. So this is some of the administration wants Johnson to do to try to set up this clash between Congress, the executive branch, and the courts. But he's not going as far as some Republicans, including Elon Musk, by the way, have pushed for, which is this swift impeachment of various judges that this administration views as a problem.
Well, I would side a little bit with Speaker Johnson and with Elon Musk for that matter, but I'm only going to side with them with the point that we should absolutely impeach these guys. No problem. But I'm just not sure it's going to be worth the political capital to make it actually happen. Thank you, Eloy, Gavin. Red wave coming in 2026 and 2028. I absolutely agree with that. The math is working out in that regard. I think you are 100% correct. We will stay on top of that. So let me get back to my main. So what I'm thinking that, sure, you can have that whole thing with the impeachment. You'll get a lot of eye candy. You'll get a lot of press. And I think it may deter some judges. But I think deep down they know that it's not going to work. I mean, I think you need 60 votes. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. If they had the votes for it, I think he would sure go for it and do it. But I don't believe they had the votes for it to do it. I think maybe a combination, impeach with the notion that they're going to lose the impeachment just to embarrass them, get them out there, and work on defunding and redistricting those courts out of existence. I think that works as well. But in the Supreme Court, that's, ultimately the Supreme Court can come down and roll, but that's not going to solve the problem, more or less. We're going to have action to lay down a deterrent from this in future generations to prevent executive branches from doing this. I'm sorry, judicial branches from doing this to the executive branch. And again, I'll reiterate, one of the things I'll say again is that the Biblical Citizenship in Modern America class that we're going to be facilitating in the next few weeks, I'll probably have to do it after football season. I'm coaching my son in flag football, so I'll probably have to wait until after May, which kind of works anyway. My schedule's kind of tied up. But I'm looking at a statue right here that I just really can't show you because I don't have the ability to pull this huge statue in front of me out. Let's see if I can get a picture of it. I'm going to really segue here. I'm going to go to Monument of the Forefathers. And I'm going to show you this simply because it's cool. I really get excited talking about this. But this here is called the Monument of the Forefathers. And this here is in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I could spend about 30 minutes talking through the symbolism in this particular picture. But I'm looking at an image of this right here. I have a replica of it. I don't know, it's pretty tall. It's about, 24 inches, maybe taller than that. It's pretty tall. But it's the exact replica. It was made by the people who did like King Kong and Jurassic Park in terms of the actual sculpting of those sorts of things. Kirk Cameron commissioned it, and you can buy these things. Anyway, but the point is, this statue here, it was designed. Let me see if I have it in front of me. Hold on. It was erected in 1889. And what you see here is a woman holding up her finger in the air. It's pointing to God in the air. And if you see her eyes, they're actually closed, introspectively thinking. And the star above her head is symbolizing of truth. And in her hand, in her left hand, she's holding a Geneva Bible, which is a Bible that the Pilgrims came over. This is about basically the Pilgrims. This is a Plymouth Rock, essentially. It's pointing towards where they actually landed in Massachusetts. And in her right hand, there's a Bible. I'm looking at it right here in the sculpture here. It's a actual Geneva Bible, which is the Bible that the Pilgrims had, which was the first Bible translation that used verse and reference, such that John 3:16, that was added after. That wasn't part of the initial manuscripts. That was added for us to help us organize and so forth. So the Geneva Bible was the first Bible to actually have that sort of notation. But the point is, she is holding that book and she's pointing her finger up in the air, looking inwardly, whereas dealing with the Holy Spirit and our strength comes from God through faith, which is what this is. She represents faith. And coming down to her right here, this lady here is morality. I'm looking at her right now. And morality is dealing with the crux of it. So coming down from her is morality, and we go around this and get to Liberty Man to the left of her. Around the back of her is education. I believe it's education. I think it's education. And this whole monument was designed so that a later generation could have a roadmap to getting us back to where the founders and the founding principles of this country came from. This is the instruction manual, and you have to go through all the symbolism in here. There's probably about 50 of them in here, if not more, in small things that go around that show what the original intent of this was. And on the side of it, you have the passengers of the Mayflower, John Turner, his two sons, John Craxton and son John, and Moses Fletcher and John Goodman and Francis Eden. It goes on down, lists all of the people on the Mayflower. It's just a fabulous monument. 1621. It says here, and securing the success of the Pilgrim enterprise came the fortune. 1621. So we'll go through all of this in our class, break it all down, and this is the recipe book of how we get back. And believe it or not, guys, what I'm seeing right now, the Trump administration, what I'm seeing right now with RFK Jr., what I'm seeing right now with Pete Hegseth, what I'm seeing right now with the cabinet in general, we're trying to go back into capitalism where it actually means that you work for something and you earn something. Because the first year the Pilgrims came on, they almost died because they embraced socialism. They literally almost died the first year. But then the following year, they said, you know what? Okay, guys, we're not going to do what we did last year, where we're going to put all of our stuff into one big pile and we come grab what we want. I'll go get some milk and some eggs, whatever, one day, and not do anything. Where someone works all day and by the time he gets there, it's all gone. Where's the incentive for anyone to actually work hard if the free stuff that was there for the community is taken by the lazy guys? So they almost starved to death. Okay. So the following year, they said, you know what? We're not going to do that. What we're going to do now is we're going to give you some land. If you want to squander it, do nothing with it, let it, die, fine. That's on you. However, if you want to harvest it, if you want to grow wheat, whatever you want to grow, if you want to take that wheat or that whatever, if you have fruit trees, whatever, you want to grow stuff on there, take it to market and make a profit, you can earn a living and be profitable and be wealthy doing that. And that particular Adam Smith motto of free enterprise in its purest sense is what gave us the most robust economy in the history of the world, and we're still sharing it today. It's so good that even after these past 4 years, we still have a pretty good head start, but it could be so much better. And I believe Trump, what he's trying to do with the tariffs and what he's trying to do with bringing in people who are merit-based into this country, who are going to give us a value add, not a value loss to our system, that's not going to suck us dry. it's going to be really beneficial, and it brings us back to what this monument is all about. I spent a lot of time on this, but I'm telling you right now, this is very foundational. If you get this model, you spend a few hours studying it, looking at it, and researching it, within a few weeks or so, the whole thing comes into focus because it's all girded on the notion of faith through God, through morality. You have morality, then you can all of a sudden you can educate, and then from there you can. What's the other one? I can't see the other one. I guess you have liberty man on the other side. You have it all together, then you can have liberty, and you're ready to actually defend liberty, which is why he's standing there, looking opposite direction towards Plymouth, towards England. He's looking towards England, and he's got a sword. And he's got a dead lion head on his arm that's underneath him because he's destroyed or killed the tyranny of England, which was the lion. And so this whole thing is just fantastic. So when I come up with this again, I make an announcement. I want you guys to consider coming on board and checking it out. It's an amazing, amazing class that we're going to do. All right, so I promised something about ALC, and I'm not going to hopefully disappoint here. I may take a break here because I may need to reset to get this set up. But I want to talk about ALC potentially going against JD Vance in 2028 showdown. So let me see if I can set that up. Let me take a quick break here. I don't have a countdown working here, so I'm just going to just come back in about, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up a banner here so that when I leave here, you will know what I'm doing. So let me see. Break will let me see, it's 10:13. Give me 5 minutes. So let's say 10:20. All right, here we go. All right, guys, I'm gonna jump off here. I'll see you in about, in this case, 6 minutes or so, and we'll come back. We'll talk about ALC versus JD Vance in 2028. Not too early or way too early prediction and how it's gonna look potentially with this. I have it all here, but I want to make sure that I have the right map in place. Should be okay, but I don't want to at least take a quick break and get something to drink. And I've been talking for a while. Yeah, I got it all here, but let's take a break anyway. See you guys in about 6 minutes. All right, we are back. I'm going to give you a public service announcement. Tell you what not to do when trying to drink hot tea. Don't drink it fast, even if you think that it's cold. So I poured my tea here, as I typically drink when I'm doing a live stream. Usually I let it sit there for a while I'm talking, but now I was really thirsty. And I said, let me pour this in here. And then I realized, well, I can't drink it quickly because if I do, I'll burn my mouth. So let me pour some out. I poured some cold water in, thinking that it's going to be way cooler. And how about it wasn't? It was terribly hot. I didn't pour enough of it out. And so that's what happened. So it's a good lesson learned. So now, you know when your mouth burns, you try and actually take another drink. Even if it's mild, it still burns more. So yeah, that's pretty painful still. So fortunately, the tongue actually heals very, very quickly. So about this time tomorrow, maybe this time in the morning, you'll be fine. So it won't matter. All right, in this last segment here, I've been going for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. We're going to go over the election with a way too early prediction of what it would look like if JD Vance were to go up against these ads coming here. I gotta get rid of this stuff out of here. If JD Vance would go up against AOC in 2028, which I think that's I would say likely matchup, but I think for sure she's going to run. So let's take these ads. That's why I like using the browser. I'm using browser, which is awful. I'll go back to the Brave browser because these ads are really annoying, to say the least. You can't get rid of them. There's no way to get rid of them. All right. So anyway, so let's go through this. And so what we're going to do first off is we're going to go through AOC. Basically, if you know who she is, she's a congresswoman out of New York. She is a bartender at one point. She ran in a fairly easy district in her home state, I think Brooklyn, I believe. And now she's been in office for several terms now. So, and even though she is dumb as a box of rocks, she is a person who is loyal to the cause of Marxism. And she is more articulate than Kamala Harris. So it's a step up in that direction. But I don't believe she is any smarter. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go through this particular race here. And we're going to go through the safe JD Vance the likely JD Vance, the lean Vance, and the tilt Vance, and then go through the AOC. In fact, let's do her first. No, let's do the safe Vance and the safe AOC first. So obviously, it's going to look very similar to what it did in 2024. Let's just go down the race here. We have Alabama is going to be. Well, we got Florida. Florida's obviously one. Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Iowa, Tennessee, Arkansas. I got Mississippi, Louisiana. I have that. Kansas, Nebraska. I'm assuming. Okay, so the first and the third, and at large. So basically the entire state except for one. So let's just do that. Where's Nebraska? It's going to be over here. So basically this, and that. And we'll go ahead and color this in for her so we won't accidentally do it. South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Utah. We got Louisiana. Wyoming. And what am I missing? Alaska. Is that it? So right now, JD Vance is looking at 137 for the ones in terms of just these are safe. And safe being more than like 15 points somewhere there. Go to the let's go to the safe AOC. California. We'll talk about it, and I had the genocide particular talking. I tell you what, but before I leave, I'll go through the notes I have on California. I won't have an article to read over. I'll just go through the notes, and you can find out more on your own if you like. It's out there if you just search on these numbers. So AOC, of course, New York will be her. But I'm thinking this. I'm not doing the shady in terms of likely because if I do that, it's going to be. I will do that actually. So this is all safe right now. So we'll keep this here. Solid blue is probably. I don't think New York for her is going to be safe. I just don't think so. I think New York for her is really going to be more like that. More like a likely. But off these notes here, they say safe, but I'm going to deviate. Illinois, safe. Massachusetts, oh yeah, that's safe all day long. All of these are going to be pretty much safe. New Hampshire, that's going to be a toss-up for sure. Is it? Yep, so that would be okay. Let's keep going. I don't want to spoil it. Massachusetts, Washington, Oregon. Okay. Hawaii, of course. Even though all these states went closer to red than it did Democrat, all of them in 2024. Rhode Island, Connecticut, Delaware. Okay. And Maryland, of course, DC, of course. I mean, come on. They're hopeless. I'm from Maryland and from DC. I was born in DC, raised in Maryland. It's hopeless up there. And Vermont. All right. So right now we're looking at a 156 to 148 basement for JD Vance and for AOC. Now here's where it gets interesting. Let's start now with likely AOC, and then we'll go to likely Vance. So let's go to Maine 1. I had New Jersey. Okay, Maine 1, which would be AOC, and Oh, interesting. This had okay, so I was actually right. So it had AOC safe in New York and safe and likely in New York as well. So this is an error on my paper. So yeah, I had it right. New York is definitely going to be a likely because it was pretty close. In fact, if I pull up the election map from before, let me share this real quickly. So if you look here, you'll see that New York was actually Harris only won it by 13. Okay, and that was a huge difference from 2020. So I think it's going to be under 10, even though she's in New York in terms of her district. So yeah, that's something to think about for sure. Let's go back here. And all right, so where are we? So now we're at likely AOC first. So New York and then Maine, the general, which would be this guy. Right? No, it did it by accident. So let's go back. It changed it. So let me go back up into Maine 1 and change that back. No, I did it wrong. So Maine is going to be likely. Maine 1's going to be likely. That's right. Okay, that's going to be right. And where is okay? So we're done there, I think. Okay, now let's go to likely Vance, and we'll start with Maine 2, which you already have. Coming over to Nevada. Oops, that's not Nevada. Let's do Arizona since we're here as a likely Vance, and Nevada a likely Vance as well. So Arizona, Nevada, and Maine 2. So now we're at 166 for Vance, 159. This is still probably going to be a pretty sound basement for both of these. In other words, they won't get any worse than this. Now let's go into the tilt AOC, and she only really has one here. And like we last saw before, New Hampshire very well could go to Vance. And I'm going to deviate from my notes here. And I'm going to say New Hampshire actually goes to Vance this time around. Because again, if you go back here and we look at the actual map, you look at New Hampshire, it was the closest by vote election of 2024. So going back to this, we're going to take a look at what's next. We just did New Hampshire for tilt AOC, and believe it or not, that's all she has left. That's pretty much all she has left. So right now she's looking at 159, and where's Minnesota? Minnesota has to be in her column. Okay, yeah, I missed that. So I missed that. Okay, yeah, okay. So let's go to lean AOC. So Virginia would be a lean AOC, which I would say that as well. We came close in Virginia before, but no hand grenades. But we're getting close there. Getting super close in Minnesota as well. Getting super close in New Mexico. I'm calling the wrong thing here, guys. Sorry. Did this. Getting close on all these. And New Jersey will be the last one. Also close. To me, these are the new battlegrounds. The new battlegrounds right now for 2028 are going to be Virginia, Minnesota, New Mexico, New Jersey, New Hampshire. Because I'm pretty sure that Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania are all going to go to Vance. And this is all she wrote. She gets no much better than this. Do we have New Hampshire too? Yep, we have that as well. All of the divided up districts are accounted for. And the rest we can color in as start. We have Texas. Why do we have Texas up here? Oh, Texas was safe. Sorry about that. Missed that. And missed Oklahoma. That was crazy. I missed that too. So I really messed that up. Oklahoma, by the way, is like, and West Virginia for that matter. I totally messed that up. Those are the most Democratic states. West Virginia and Texas. Sorry, West Virginia and Oklahoma are the most Republican states. For the past Going back to 2016, Trump won every single county in Oklahoma and in West Virginia in 2020 as well, and 2024. Every single county was won by Trump in all the counties in Oklahoma and all the counties in West Virginia. In fact, let's take a look at that. Let's go here. Share your tabs here. Here do we have it here? Yeah, we have it. So let's look at Oklahoma. We have to hit shift here, I think. Every county. In West Virginia, every county. You don't find this. You go back 2020, same thing. Go back 2016, the exact same thing. In fact, they only had one county that was even close, and that was this. And Trump won by 4. And let's go to Oklahoma. There's a couple close counties, quote unquote close. This here, can y'all see that? You can. Perfect. There are 2 close counties. This one here, Trump won by 1.7. Oklahoma City. I've been through there. That's where they had the memorial with the. I went through there. I forget the name of the building that was detonated. Anyway, that was interesting town. And the other one, semi-close one, Trump won by 15 points. Everything else, 60. I mean, look at these numbers, 80. I mean, look at that. I mean, this is just, that's as red as you're going to get. So for me to forget that was really, really, really bad. So we got to work on Oklahoma County, and that. Well, the other one's fine. He won by 4 in West Virginia, so they're pretty good there. So let's get back on track here. Almost done. Did I forget Colorado too? Did I forget Colorado for her? Where does Colorado fit in? I'm not showing Colorado, but I'm gonna give Colorado to her a likely because of their voting, because they have mail-in voting there. So we'll give that to her. So she's at 211. Vance at 221. Missouri is also going to be him too. I don't know why I forgot that. That's going to be safe. 231. Indiana also going to be safe. Missed that one too. Went too fast. Now we're getting there. Now, okay, here we go. Now here we go to he's at 242. He's only 28 away. Is that right? So now we're talking about Tilt Vance, which is Wisconsin, which would be that color, and Georgia. Georgia is going to flip, unfortunately, to Democrat at some point. If not in this cycle coming up, definitely in 2032. But by then, we would have solidly picked up and held one of these swing states that I'm calling New Mexico, Virginia, or Minnesota, or New Hampshire, or New Jersey to make up for Georgia. Georgia 16 points, so that's a big pickup. So it will take a couple of them to make up those numbers. So it would have to be like a New Mexico and a Minnesota would do it, sort of get them close, and a New Hampshire. So New Hampshire, Minnesota, New Mexico would make up for lost Georgia. Or we pick up, New Jersey, which is 14. So it's going to ebb and flow. There's definitely a realignment going on. So that's what we're talking about. All right, so we're almost there. Let's finish up here. The last of these are all, of course, leans Vance. And here we have Pennsylvania, which, by the way, we had something earlier on Florida about it being a bellwether state, about how Florida goes right. It affects Pennsylvania and I believe Michigan as well. Because as Florida goes right, Pennsylvania also goes right of a percentage. And if Michigan and Wisconsin always vote slightly less to the left of Pennsylvania, then that's a lock for Vance because they already won Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So if Pennsylvania gets more red, then so will Michigan and so will Wisconsin. Or at worst case, they'll stay around the same, which Trump won. Now, Wisconsin is a little bit smaller margin. I think he won by, let's look at that map here real quickly. He won that one by, let's see, pull this out. Let's go to Wisconsin. He won that by less than a point. So that's an iffy one. But Wisconsin, by the way, has a huge election coming up right now, a Supreme Court election coming up. We need to really be on top of, and we'll cover that in another video. We're about to wrap this up, so let's just go and color in Michigan. Let's color in Pennsylvania. Let's color in North Carolina. I think it's going to be more like that, and South Carolina should have been more red than that too. In fact, South Carolina should have been safe. It is safe. All right, so yeah, so there you go. So you have JD Vance, some are seeing around 227. I think I gave him more than he probably should get. Where could he have lost this? Where did I mess up at? Because 227 is higher than I initially spec'd out. I'm trying to see where I made my. Oh, Massachusetts. No way. No way, ever. That's gonna be blue as daylight. So I'm still missing another one that I misappropriated. You know what it is? It's gonna be New Hampshire, because I had that as. Yep, I had that as for AOC, but I think you carry New Hampshire. It's time. So that puts JD Vance 4 ahead of Trump in 2024, over 222 for AOC in 2028. This is your map right now. I don't see it changing. It's only going to get worse for Democrats, because they're going to have to defend New Mexico. They're going to have to defend Minnesota. They're going to have to defend Virginia. They're going to have to defend New Jersey. They're going to have to defend New Hampshire, as we mentioned in the top of the show. And they're going to have to double down on New York so they don't lose more there. Because if New York goes more right, then it's going to affect New Jersey. It's going to affect, New Hampshire. It's going to just affect them all. These things don't operate in vacuums at all. So that's where I'm going to leave this, guys. There's no questions here in the forum here. And hope you like this. Hope this was beneficial. Hope it was interesting. And I'll probably do a show. If I think about it, I may do a show on, let's see, on Thursday or Friday on the biblical citizenship class. And I may do a whole thing on the Monument of the Forefathers. Super duper cool. And I also want to bring in some guests soon. So we're going to get all these work on this thing. We're working the new software. It's going to be a few weeks before I feel comfortable enough to bring an actual guest in here and have them talk on this new system that we're running on. We're getting a little better. We did a little better today. There was no muting. There was no droppage. There was no anything that was really, I felt that was really that bad, other than the fact that we still can't play video. I have a ticket out to Rumble to see if they can fix that, because we can't play video like I want to. Which is why I didn't play the intro this morning. Was this before this show? So that's going to be something I need to work on with them. But in the meantime, we're going to continue on as we have, and hopefully that will be adequate for you guys. Just bear with us. And I will leave on this note here. If you guys go over to rumble.com, I'm going to go there right now so you can take a look at it. I think I'm already logged in. And I'm going to go to our page. If you go to, it's going to be the Rumble at theconservative.com. And actually, I will do a banner on that too, just so I can have it for tomorrow, whenever. So let's go to the studio, do banner. We're going to do a new banner. We're going to put our thing in here, and we're going to create it up top, and we're going to show it. So that's our, if you go to rumble.com, not user, don't go to that. That's not going to be the right edit. Let me edit that out. That's me. Yeah, go to rumble.com/theconservative take. And once you do that, you come here and let me share my screen. You can come to this section here. It says join. Click on join. It'll pop up this screen here. And this screen here, it basically tells you to hit support, and support, just follow the prompts. And if you type in Brandon as the code for the option, you can get 30 days free as a supporter on the Conservative Take, where we have tons of articles, videos, and we'll actually have the Biblical Citizenship Leadership class out there, posted out there. We have several of them out there. We just haven't posted them up there yet, but they will be up there soon. And then we're going to redo the whole thing and update it because that's a few years old. But for now, we'll put the ones we do have out there now up there, and then you can actually follow along when you have your class. So afterward, we have our class, let's say on a Monday or Tuesday or whenever we have it. Then the following day, I'll do a commentary on it, going through the entire lesson plan and commenting on it and having that displayed with handouts that will be available in PDF format, which will all be out there. And plus, a lot of our documentation for our videos are out there as well. Our Africans Sold Other Africans into Slavery series, all the PDFs are out there too on that, and documentation, the original articles and the original manuscripts and logs from that particular day and time, research of that particular time of the late 19th century. You'll see how all that stuff is quantified and true. And we try to document that in a way that we can actually verify it so that people don't come at us and say like we're not, telling the truth when we can back it up. So that's all in our locals. Check it out there. And last but not least, if you were to go to join for free and not go through this, to go for free, you could actually go to register at locals at conservativetake.locals.com/register. Go there, and then it'll allow you to sign up for free, and then you will just have access, and there won't be the option to sign up as a supporter, which is, I think, $2 a month, what they're asking for, or anything more than that is fine as well. All right, I'm done. Hope everyone had a good time here, and I will see you guys on Thursday. We don't do this on Wednesdays, and hopefully I will have a good show on that, dealing with the biblical citizenship. It might not be until Friday for that, but I do want to do one of those soon because it's such an interesting topic, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So with that, guys, thank you so much. God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next video.